Hello everyone, and thank you for watching my 248 video tutorial. In the previous lecture we have made a simple but a very important step towards implementing the move mechanic in our 248 game. We have created these two lists that are called columns and rows, and we have populated them with tiles from our all tiles array, so that now our game manager class has the information about the rows and columns. And it is very important because, as you remember, up and down moves are made in columns and left and right moves are made in rows. And now I would like to implement two methods that will be responsible for our elementary moves, and one of them will be called make one move down index, so I'm going to implement that. And in this lecture we're going to do something funky here, so I'm going to make our method return a boolean value, so a boolean can return either a true or a false, and I will write make one move down index. As you remember, we have talked about it in our video with the slideshow. We're going to have two types of moves in our code, and one of them is going to be down index, and another method will be called make one move up index. And this method has to take one argument, so it's going to take a tile array which will represent in different situations either our rows or our columns, and I'm going to call it line of tiles, and I'm going to open and close these brackets. And the first thing that I would like to do in this method is I'd like to create a for loop that is going to iterate over all the tiles in our line. So I'm going to write integer I equals 0. I will create this int variable to iterate through the tiles in our line of tiles, and I will write I is less than line of tiles dot length, and I would like to make it -1, so it will be a number less than the length of our line of tiles. And I'm doing this because we are going to compare two tiles in the body of this loop. One of them will be the tile with index I in our array, and another will be the tile with the index I+1. So if we get to our last element, the tile with the index I+1 will be inexistent and we will get an error from Unity. And to prevent that, we are subtracting this 1 in the end of this statement, and I will say I++, so 1 will be added to I after each iteration of this loop. And inside of this loop I am going to write a comment that will say move block, because in this video I would like to implement just the logic that is responsible for our moves. And here I will write an if statement, so I will check if we have a move available for us. So I will write if line of tiles with the index I, so we will get an individual tile with index I has a number equal to, and I have to write double equals here, has a number equal to 0, and line of tiles with index I+1 dot number not equals to 0. So if we have one empty tile followed by a tile with an actual number, then we have our move available. And I will open this code block, and the logic is pretty simple. We will just swap the contents of these two tiles. So first I would like to assign the number that we have on our full tile to our empty tile. So I will write line of tiles with the index I dot number equals line of tiles with the index I+1 dot number. So after this statement, our tile with the index I has the same number that the next line has, and right now we have to clear our next line, so I will say line of tiles with the index I+1 dot number equals 0. And this actually concludes our elementary move. So we have found a situation when our move is available, and in this situation we have just swapped our two tiles. So one of them has become empty, and another tile now has this number. So now that I have written all the logic that is responsible for our down index move, I can just select all these methods and copy and paste it. And I will change it a little bit to represent our method move up index. So here I will write make one move up index, and right now we have to be attentive to make some important changes. So if we are moving up index, we'll have to search from our highest index. So I will write here line of tiles dot length -1. So we are starting to search for our move combinations from the highest number possible, and this condition will now be I is greater than 0. So we will go through all the indexes of tiles in our line of tiles array except the index of 0, and this is intentional because we are going to search for a tile with the index 0 and for its next tile, which will be a tile with index -1, and of course Unity will give us an error if we do that. Another thing that I'd like to change is, because now we are going in the other direction, so we are going from the higher indexes to the lower indexes, I'll have to make this iteration statement I minus minus. And in our move block we are also going to change a couple of things. So this if statement, if the line with index I equals 0, we will leave that. And here I will have to change this I plus 1 for I minus 1, and the same thing I'm going to do here in all the statements. So I am finished. So this method will handle all the down index moves and down index merges, and this method is going to take care of our up index moves and up index merges. The only logic that we have added to these methods so far is the logic that will take care of our moves. And after I have implemented the logic in these two methods, there is another interesting feature that I actually forgot about. I have declared both of these methods as Boolean methods, so they have to return a Boolean value. And this Boolean value, it will actually say whether our move was successful or not. If the move was made, this method will return true, and if the move wasn't made, it will return false. So in this if block, if our code gets inside this block, which means that we have found a possibility to make an elementary move and we have actually made it, I will write inside of this code block return true. So the move has been made and we will return true. And here in the end of this method I will write return false. So if we have entered our loop and we haven't found any available move in this line, we will just go to the end of this method and this method will return false. And the same thing I will do for our make one move up index. So after these manipulations with the tiles in our line, I will write return true, because this is the case when we have made an actual move. And here in the end of our method I will write return false, because this is the situation when we haven't found any available moves inside of this for loop. Another thing that I'd like to say about code execution in C# in general, if we enter this for loop and we encounter just one situation when we actually make a move, this for loop will not continue its execution and we will just return from this method and it will return a value of true. And then if we enter this method once again, the for loop starts from the beginning. So once we encounter this return statement, the execution of this method is over and it just returns a value that we supply through this return statement. And because both of these methods return a Boolean variable, we will use them in a very interesting way, but this is a subject of our next lecture, and by the end of next lecture we will actually get the tiles moving on our game field. So thank you for watching and see you in the next video.